Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're taking you on a journey into the fascinating world of auricular medicine.
Yeah, you heard that right.
We're talking about ears.
But not how you think.
Get ready to have your mind blown.
Because we're about to unravel a medical mystery that connects your ears to your whole body.
We're talking about something called the Nogier Reflex.
Okay, hold on. What reflex?
And more importantly,
how on earth are my ears connected to, well, everything else?
it's a question that puzzled scientists for decades.
But picture this. It's the 1950s.
And a French physician named Dr. Paul Nogier discovers something wild.
He finds that stimulating certain points on the ear seems to directly impact a person's pulse.
Wait, so he's saying my ear is like a secret control panel for my heart rate?
Tell me more about this Dr. Nogier. What did he think was going on?
Dr. Nogier became known as the father of auricular medicine.
Which is the idea that different points on your ear correspond to different organs and systems in your body.
His big discovery.
This Nogier reflex
Suggested that you could potentially influence those systems just by stimulating the right spot on the ear.
That's incredible.
But how? Is there like a direct wire from my earlobe to my heart?
That's the million-dollar question.
For a long time, the leading theory was that it had to do with the autonomic nervous system.
Which controls all those automatic functions like your heart rate, breathing, and digestion.
Okay, that makes sense.
So stimulating a point on the ear sends a signal through the nerves to the brain.
Which then sends another signal back out to the heart, changing the pulse.
That's the gist of it.
But proving it wasn't so simple.
Fast forward to 2014.
And researchers at the Medical University of Graz in Austria decided to try and capture this reflex in action using high-resolution imaging.
Imagine being able to actually see those subtle changes happening beneath the skin's surface in response to ear stimulation.
That's incredible.
So what did they see? Did it back up this whole nervous system theory?
Their initial findings did seem to support the idea that there's a real physiological response happening.
But it wasn't a slam dunk.
A few years later, a different team at the same university used a technique called heart rate variability measurement.
Which basically gives you a detailed look at the subtle fluctuations in your heartbeat.
So even more high-tech than just checking your pulse rate.
Exactly.
And they found that the Nogier reflex follows consistent, measurable patterns.
This suggested it wasn't just some random fluke.
But a real physiological phenomenon.
However, they also acknowledged that the pathways from the ear to the autonomic nervous system are incredibly complex.
It's not as simple as one nerve connecting directly to another.
So it's like a tangled web of nerve.
And depending on how you stimulate the ear, the signal could be taking a completely different route each time.
Precisely.
And that complexity made it even harder to definitively prove how this reflex was actually working.
And that's where things get even more interesting.
Because
just when we thought we were starting to get a handle on the Nogier reflex,
a completely new hypothesis emerges.
That might turn everything on its head.
Okay, now you've got me on the edge of my seat.
What's this new theory all about?
2 words.
Electrical signals.
Wait, what?
Electrical signals in your ears.
I know it sounds kind of sci-fi, right?
But 2 doctors, Theodoros Yiannakopoulos and Peter Kreisel,
Propose that.
proposed that the Nogier reflex might not just involve the heart and nervous system, but also these tiny electrical signals traveling all the way to the brain.
Okay, walk me through this.
Are they saying?
Are they saying that touching my ear could send an electrical signal to my brain, which then sends another signal back out to affect my pulse? That's wild.
That's exactly what they're saying.
And to test their theory.
And to test their theory, they actually did a small experiment using a microelectrocardiographic recorder, which is a super sensitive device for measuring even the tiniest electrical changes in the body.
Okay, so high-tech sensors to track these potential electrical signals.
Oh, what did they do in the experiment?
They focused on a specific point on the ear called the control point of the deep layer.
And stimulated it using
different tools, including magnets and something called a black and white hammer.
a black and white hammer.
Now I'm really picturing a mad scientist's lab.
But seriously, what is that?
It's actually an acupuncture tool.
And they found that when they used this black and white hammer, the electrical signals associated with the Nogier reflex were stronger when they moved the hammer over the control point as opposed to just touching it directly.
They also
noticed that different tools seem to create distinct electrical patterns.
suggesting that the type of stimulation might be important.
So different tools, different signals, different effects. That's fascinating.
But did this experiment actually prove that the Nogier reflex is driven by electrical signals?
It's definitely a promising lead.
But we have to remember,
But we have to remember it was a very small study.
what's really exciting is that it opens up a whole new avenue for research.
If we can confirm that these electrical signals are real and figure out how to measure them reliably,
It could completely change how we understand and use the Nogier reflex.
I'm starting to see why this is such a big deal.
But what could we actually do with this information? How could understanding these electrical signals change things?
Imagine being able to diagnose health problems or even deliver incredibly precise treatments just by stimulating the right points on the ear.
We could be talking
We
about...
could be talking about a whole new frontier in personalized medicine.
Okay, now we're talking personalized medicine through my ears. That's seriously cool.
God.
But before we get ahead of ourselves, I have to ask.
If these electrical signals are the key, how do we even know for sure that they're real?
It's not like we can see electricity zipping around inside the body.
You're right, seeing is believing.
And
that's exactly what Yanakopoulos and Chrysler are saying.
we need...
Biotechnology.
They believe that the future of understanding the Nogier reflex lies in developing more advanced devices that can accurately measure these subtle electrical changes.
So we need like a super-powered EKG that can pick up these tiny signals from the ear.
What would that even look like?
Well, they envision a device that could not only measure the Nogier reflex with incredible precision, but potentially even use that information to control other bioresonance devices.
Hold on, back up a second.
Tailoring treatments based on your unique response?
Bioresonance devices.
You're going to have to explain that one.
Okay.
So bioresonance therapy is a whole other fascinating area.
It's based on the idea that our bodies emit subtle electromagnetic waves.
And these devices use those waves to diagnose and treat health problems.
So you're saying this theoretical device could read the electrical signals from my ear and then use that information to personalize bioresonance therapy.
It's like high-tech tuning forks for my body.
Exactly.
It's taking personalized medicine to a whole new level.
But even if we just stick with the Nogier reflex for now...
It really makes you wonder what other secrets our bodies might be hiding.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's like we've just scratched the surface of understanding how our bodies communicate internally.
And the more we learn about these hidden connections, the more possibilities open up.
Who knows what other incredible discoveries are waiting to be made? Well, I have to say this deep dive into the Nogier reflex has been a wild ride. From ear points that can influence the heart to tiny electrical signals that could revolutionize medicine, it's clear that there's still so much to learn about this mysterious reflex.
If you're anything like me, you're probably just as amazed by the Nogier reflex as you are eager to hear more about those bioresonance devices.
So keep those ears open, because you never know what fascinating corners of science we'll be exploring next on The Deep Dive.